Hello everyone and welcome to another collections showcase. So, those of you who follow me on Twitter will know that I recently acquired a very strange holographic 10th Doctor, which may or may not be a prototype. Now, I'm still looking into information regarding that. However, in looking for information for that, I have come across these two. And all indications so far that I have known and from who I've got them from, and from people I've spoken to, are that these are official prototypes. The person that I got them from is one of the private sellers that I trade with. No, I'm not willing to hand out their information just before people ask. But they are a private seller that I have traded with before, and I know them quite well, and they know that I'm always on the lookout for prototypes, and they like to collect prototypes of various figures themselves. So they always like to let me know when they do have they have come across some prototypes, especially if they are potentially real ones, and I trust their judgment. I've known them for quite a while, both as a trader but also personally, and I personally trust their judgment. If they say that these are most likely real, then that is good enough for me. So what we have here, obviously, is a 10th Doctor in a spacesuit and a Cyberman. Now, I'm going to do the Cyberman first because that's probably the simplest one to go over. Now, what you have with this Cyberman is it looks like just an ordinary Cyberman to begin with. Obviously, you know, there's nothing particularly special about it. But what makes this one the prototype version is of the variant releases of the Cybermen figures. There was standard Cyberman without the blue chest. There was the Cyberman with the blue chest and an arm gun. There was also a very, very limited release, which may have been a factory error. If you have got one of these, keep it safe. If you have got one in the box, keep it even safer, of the gun without the blue chest piece. Some people do think that is a prototype. Unfortunately, it's not. It was actually released, but it is still a very rare release. But one that was never released was Cyberman without the gun and with the blue chest. For reasons unknown, this was a variant that was never actually released. Now, occasionally, some fake versions do pop up online, but one way, I'm going to try and get this on camera as best I can. If the camera's going to track in, I don't think it's going to. Come on. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to track in that well. Sorry about that. But basically, one way that you can tell with these is if you look around, I'm going to have to still bring it in to show you what I mean, but if you look around the chest piece, if you look around the inside ring, if the inside of the ring is still silver, and it is on this one again, unfortunately I can't quite get it on camera, but it is, if it's still silver, then it's a genuine piece. I have seen some people selling these on eBay saying, oh, this is a real prototype. Always ask, if you ever see them, for a high-res close-up of the chest piece, because if the inside of the edge of that ring is blue, painted blue, then it's probably fake. Because what a lot of people tend to do is they just get one of the normal Cybermen, and then they just paint in the chest piece, and they don't bother to really clean it up and tidy it up, which is something else you can look for as well, is look for any blue paint around the outside of the chest piece, because again, a lot of the time they will paint it and then they won't tidy it up properly. That is a way that I've seen, because the pictures I've seen of the real prototypes like this one, other pictures, what I've noticed is that the inside ring doesn't have blue paint on it, it's just silver. So it seems that is a telltale sign with these, that it's worth remembering, which is why I was so glad that this turned out to be real, because these do crop up occasionally, as I said. You might see them on eBay, things like that, and a lot of the time, unfortunately, they are fake versions. But it's always great when you see it. You think, oh, is it real? Is it real? And then you see the chest piece, and you can see the silver edging, and you think that's real. It's fantastic. So I was really pleased that this one did turn out to be real, because it really is something that is a great piece to have in a collection. So if you do have one of these without the gun and with the blue chest piece, check for the silver ring, and if it's not there, I'm afraid that it's probably not real. But if it is there, keep it safe, because it is well worth keeping safe, as it isn't a release. Now, just while I'm on this subject as well, I have heard people talk about these before as well, as I said, and there have been some people that said, oh, I've got one of these, and I actually got it in box. I'm sorry, but no, you didn't, because I've looked into this. Like I said, I've been in contact with other people, and this particular version, in no form did it make it in. The only way that this might have been boxed released was a factory error that had a standard Cyberman, and it got the wrong arm put on it. Now, there's a very good way that you can tell if this is one of the earlier versions, because if I stand it on the side, now I'm going to bring in the only other one I've got spare. It is my wooden Cyberman custom, but if I stand them back to back, you can see how much shorter. I'm trying to do this slightly off camera. You can see how much shorter the original prototype version is. So again, it's another great way of being able to tell whether it's a real prototype or whether it's just a repainted one with a swapped arm. Obviously, the problem here is that you could still get an original release that didn't have the blue chest, and then the chest has been painted in, but I said that's where you need to look for the blue ring. But on the off chance that what somebody's done is they have just swapped over an arm, this is a great way of saying, can you take me a picture of it next to one with the gun? Because the chances are that the one with the gun will be the taller of the two. So just a helpful little tip for people who want to keep a lookout for these sorts of things. That is one way of telling what it is. But that is the Cyberman. And now we get on to the 10th Doctor. Now, this one is very odd, because, again, something that I have seen is people often get the Peter Capaldi version, and they just replace it with a 10th Doctor head. That's very common. I've seen quite a few people do that. But the things that they often don't have on their custom versions are the Sanctuary base logos, the bracelet on the hand sculpted in, and also this yellow emergency whistle thing. Now, again, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this up on close camera very easily. Not that easily. But basically, the Sanctuary base logos are actually printed onto this figure. They're not just stuck on. They're not bits of paper or bits of like sticky back labeling. These are actually printed onto the figure. And I tried to very gently, because the one thing again that you will be able to tell if they've just been stuck on with paper is if you just get a flat blade and you just scrape down, it will take the paper off, and you have to do it very gently to make sure that you don't ruin an actual one, which is why I've done it. But the other thing that I noticed as well is on the arm, and I don't know how easily I'm going to be able to get this on camera. You might be able to see it at that angle, but the one on the arm is actually raised. It's actually printed on there and raised. And again, I thought, oh, that's been stuck on, but I didn't, and it's actually part of the sculpt. The bracelet on the hand, I apologise that I don't know why, sometimes my camera does want to track in and sometimes it doesn't. The bracelet on the hand, now the one thing that you can often look for is if this had been sculpted on, you would see a seam between the two. and under a magnifying glass you can see that this does not have, it is seamless, which leads me to believe, and certainly makes it seem like that is all one sculpt. That hand is all one complete sculpt, which certainly lends credit to the fact that this is a genuine prototype. There's a few things on this, however. The problem is that with the released Peter Capaldi version, this would not be a hard thing for somebody to fake. So again, just a word to the wise for people who might come across one of these online. A word to the wise about telltale signs of things to look for. So when I got this, obviously the head would very easily, you would think, easily be able to swap over. Now I have here, I don't have a 10th Doctor head spare, but what I do have is an 11th Doctor head spare, and it has this peg on the bottom. And from doing other custom versions of a 375 10th Doctor, it has the same peg. Now, this spare head is actually from a failed custom that I did, and I was going to do an 11th Doctor in the spacesuit, the Peter Capaldi spacesuit, and I ended up stripping the figure for parts, and I think I ended up selling it. So unfortunately, I don't have it. I don't have it now. But what I did notice is when I took the head out of the Peter Capaldi figure, it was properly fixed in. There was no peg. It was properly fixed into the head. And when I tried to put the 11th Doctor head onto the Peter Capaldi body, first of all, the peg didn't fit. And second of all, even when the peg had been trimmed down, the neck was too long, which means it had a kind of giraffe neck look. Now, when I looked at, when I did a custom version of a 10th Doctor, not in a spacesuit, when I did a custom version of a 10th Doctor, I think it was before the blue suit release came out, I painted up a brown suit as a blue suit. I took the head off and I noticed it had the same peg arrangement as the 11th Doctor head. And so that leads me to believe that if you were just swapping over, if you tried to just swap over the head onto this Peter Capaldi body, or a Peter Capaldi body spacesuit of the same style, it wouldn't fit. Firstly, the peg wouldn't fit, and secondly, the head would be far too long. Now again, I apologise that this is going to come up slightly grainy on camera, but what I can show you is that this head, which was the best way of doing this, this head still has full 360-degree articulation, and if I try and pull it out, you can see I'm actually marking my thumbs and my fingers trying to get it out. It is there is a little bit of give, as you might have seen then. There is a little bit of give, but that is well and truly fixed into the head, which makes me think that this is not just a head swap, because if it was a head swap, firstly, they would have had to have trimmed the peg down, which means that in order to retain the articulation, the head would have just easily popped out, which it hasn't, as you've just seen. And secondly, if they had trimmed the neck down, because obviously if it was just a head swap as well, the neck would have been stuck out further of the collar. If they had just trimmed the neck down, in order to get the head to stay in, they would have had to glue it. And if they glued it, then it wouldn't have retained the articulation. Now, obviously, some people say, well, you could make some kind of rod arrangement and things like that, and you could, but it would still be quite easy to remove the head, I think, if you did that. So that makes me think this, for one reason, that this is genuine. The glove, as I said, is a seamless thing, and also the Sanctuary Base logos, as I said, they're not stuck on; they are printed on. Now, again, I appreciate that these are all things that somebody could do themselves in theory, but it would take an extremely high level of customs work to be able to do that. and it would leave telltale signs, I think, if you did do that, and I honestly can't see any on this, and the most telltale one of all would be swapping the head over, and the fact that the head would easily come off, and it really doesn't, it just doesn't, as you've seen. So, as I said, I nearly said their name then, I won't, but the person that I bought this from, they know their stuff. They are very sure that these are both genuine prototypes. I have absolutely no reason to doubt them. I am utterly thrilled to have these in my collection. And that brings to a close my 3 3/4 inch prototypes video. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. Be sure to check out the description below for a link